This is funny. I'm having like a whole deja vu type of moment where I remember I came on here after week two and pretty much saying, you know what, guys, I'm a fool. I thought the Giants were going to win this week, blah, blah, blah. And pretty much the same thing just happened this week. I mean, I thought coming off that Carolina game where the offense looked alive for the first time in 2 or 3 years that they would have some type of pulse this weekend, or not weekend, but on Thursday night. But I don't know what the hell I just watched, and it was despicable. There's no other way to say it. The Giants had a pathetic performance on a Thursday night home game, a huge game for them. They were basically still in the division race. I mean, as bad as they were at 1-4, if they won tonight, they would have been half a game out of first place, I believe. So, I mean, they really just shit the bed in a big situation. This was their biggest game of the year so far. Now, at this point, you can kiss the season goodbye. Eli Manning is worse than I even thought he was, if that was possible. There's a lot to get into for this game, so try to bear with me here. I'm gonna try not to shit on the Giants too much here, but I don't know if I can help myself at this point, so we'll see what happens. So as always, I will start with the positives, and my first positive is Saquon Barkley. I have him down as the most talented running back in the NFL. I mean, I really think it's between him and Kamara at this point. Saquon is just a different breed. There's no other way to say it. That screen pass he took for, I think, 61 yards, whatever it was, is a play that I really don't think another running back in this league could do. His lateral quickness, his ability to catch the ball. He could even break off the big plays. I mean, there's running backs like Saquon out there, like David Johnson, for an example, but they really, David Johnson's not known for making the big play. He's done it in the past, but Saquon already has 3 or 4 breakaway runs for, long touchdowns or big gains. There's really not another running back in this league that can do what he does. And as nice as it would be to have a Josh Rosen or a Sam Darnold sitting behind a struggling Eli Manning right now, it is nice to have a guy like Saquon Barkley to at least, give this fan base some hope and give us a reason to keep watching every week. I, of course, still believe we should have a quarterback, but it is what it is, and, we kind of have to look till next year with that, but I'll get into that later. Wayne Gallman played pretty decent tonight. I think he averaged over 4 a carry. Did some things in the receiving game as well. So, I mean, really nothing to brag about with Wayne Gallman, but he looked pretty good. Olivier Vernon finally came back this week, made a big impact right away. You could tell he was, making an impact on the pass rush. He was against Jason Peters, who, he's old as hell, but he's still considered one of the better left tackles in football. He was making pretty light work of him. Peters came out, I think, halfway through the game. Vernon continued to get pressure. Vernon, of course, got held many times, and they never call holding, so it is what it is. But he was still basically, I'm sure Vernon was on Carson Wentz's mind every time he dropped back to pass. I mean, he was making a lot of plays defensively. Landon Collins was all over the field, as well as Alec Ogletree. I mean, those guys always bring it no matter what the score is, no matter how bad things are going. So that's really all I have for positives. I mean, I don't know where else to go with this. Aldrick Rosas had, he made 2 out of 3 field goals, I believe. I'm pretty positive the only reason he missed a 52-yarder was because of his injury. I think he had a groin or quad injury, something like that. I mean, the kick was right down the middle. He just missed it because I'm assuming he doesn't have all the strength in his leg right now, so can't really put that on him if he wasn't healthy enough to kick from that far. So yeah, I mean, let's jump into the negatives then. So I wrote down Eli Manning is washed. He was 24 for 43 with 281 and an interception. I don't know how many of those 281s came on dump offs to Saquon Barkley, but Eli Manning looked absolutely horrendous tonight. This is the worst I've ever seen Eli Manning look, and that's definitely saying something. I mean, I thought after week 2 in Dallas that would be the worst I would see of him all season, but it's really weird coming off that game against the Panthers where it looked like he had some life left and looked like he can still play in this league, and to come out and just completely shit the bed against a Philadelphia secondary that has not been good this year by any means. I mean, Kirk Cousins had a field day against them. I'm trying to think who else they played. I don't know, but basically coming into this game, Philadelphia's secondary was not that good. Of course, their front seven was good, but there should have been areas where you can attack the Philadelphia secondary. The Giants just did not do that today. Odell was held in check. Sterling Shepard, same thing. Cody Latimer, I think, had the biggest catch. He had something like a 50-yard catch down the field. It was nice to see him go up and get that. But, I mean, other than that, there's really no positives from the passing attack of the Giants. I mean, it really just came down to Saquon Barkley, who was literally the whole offense today. And if we didn't have him this game, this would have been really, really ugly. So thank God for Saquon. And on every video, I always get comments saying like, "Oh, this is not Eli's fault. It's the offensive line." Whatever you want to say. I think more people are starting to realize this is on Eli more than they realized in the beginning. And before the season started, I really didn't want to, blame a lot of it on Eli because last year was just a whole debacle of a season, and I really didn't put too much stock into that. But you can just tell, I mean, it's time for Eli to either retire or just take a bench spot at this point. I mean, I don't know if the move right now is to put in Kyle Lauletta, but I really do think coming out of their bye, it's a real possibility at this point. I mean, after last week, I wasn't really thinking it was possible, but after this performance at home, getting booed by the home crowd, Odell Beckham is pissed off. You can tell. I think before the game, there was a report coming out that some Giants players weren't happy with Eli Manning, and I don't know what else the Giants can do at this point. I mean, fans and the media are going to be screaming to bench Eli. It's going to be an interesting week and a half to see how things go. I think we're at Atlanta, then we're home against the Redskins, and that home game against the Redskins very well maybe Eli's last start as a Giant. I don't know how ready or how prepared Kyle Lauletta is right now, but if I'm Pat Shurmur, I'm telling him like you better be ready for week 9 or week 10 whenever we get out of the bye. So I really don't know what's going to happen with that situation. If it were up to me, I mean, if the Giants were 1-7 coming into their bye, I really don't see why you wouldn't make the change. I mean, it doesn't make sense to keep rolling out a 37, 38-year-old quarterback who obviously does not have anything in front of him at this point. I don't expect him to be here next year. I said this back in August, I think. I don't expect Eli to be back here next year. They took it out of his contract. So if Lauletta's ready to go, I really don't know how he could be much worse than Eli. At least Lauletta adds a mobility factor. He makes good touch throws. I mean, Lauletta, we didn't see a huge sample in the preseason, but he did look impressive at times, and I'm probably going to make a whole highlight reel, not even a highlight reel, just every throw or every play of Lauletta's preseason. I'll probably upload that sometime this week, so you guys can see that, of course. And of course, I mean, it's time to think of a future quarterback, whether it's Lauletta, whether it's Justin Herbert, Will Grier, whoever it is. Of course, we don't know what pick we're going to have. It's week 6, but if this season keeps going this way, I have no idea how we're going to have a pick that's outside of the top 10 at this point. The Giants may have to trade down a little bit, but it is what it is. I mean, that's why I was arguing and banging on the table for the Giants to draft a quarterback at 2nd overall. And the Giants did pick one hell of a player in Saquon Barkley, I get that. But if the Giants are in a situation where they have to trade up to get a quarterback like Justin Herbert, it's going to cost them a lot of draft capital for the future, which is going to suck. So off the quarterbacks now, Alshon Jeffrey had a field day for the Eagles. I think he had 2 touchdowns. That's usually Janoris Jenkins' guy, so I don't know what was going on there. Eli Apple looked absolutely fooled on the Aguilar deep ball. I mean, I remember watching the replay from a camera that was in the secondary, and basically Eli Apple took his eye off of Aguilar for a second, and then when he looked back, he was 10 yards behind them, and a throw in stride could have been a touchdown. So that's not a good play by Eli Apple there. Still inconsistent. The special teams was awful. The Eagles had a nice punt return at one point, so I think somewhere like the 50 or hour 40, somewhere like that. So you can't allow that stuff. Odell botched a punt at one point. He did get it back, but the special teams has been very far from smooth this season, so they really need to clean that stuff up. I also had everyone seems frustrated. I mean, it must suck to be in this situation right now. There are obviously guys on this team that are fed up with Eli Manning and don't know why the coaches or management won't make a change, and they want Eli to take more shots, and it's just not happening. This went back to last week they were airing the ball out, making deep throws, and this week they did the complete opposite and went back to dump down to Saquon or throw short to whoever, take sacks, all that kind of bad stuff. So you could tell Odell Beckham has had enough. He had another meltdown on the sidelines today, and I hate seeing that stuff. I mean, I feel for the guy. He's passionate, but you kind of have to keep your emotions in check at this point. I think he banged his head on or banged his helmet on a fan or something like that, and Saquon Barkley, who's like 21 years old, had to go over and calm him down. So I really don't know what to think of it. I can only imagine how frustrated he is, though. I mean, Odell's been through it now for like 4 or 5 years, so I think it's time to change a quarterback, and I think Odell would agree with me on that one. So it seemed like towards the end the defense kind of stopped caring. I can't say that for everybody, but I mean they really were not swarming the ball at all. It kind of seemed like they were just half-assing it. Kind of looked like the defense last year in that game against San Francisco, where they're kind of just letting guys run freely and letting the last tackler get him. It wasn't like the Giants were too concerned with swarming the ball on defense, and you just hate seeing that as a fan because when your team's not giving effort, it's tough to watch, and we're investing our time and money as fans to watch this team and root for them. And last week we saw a team that really had a lot of heart, that was caring, and then this week we saw a team that was they looked unprepared, they looked clueless, and they looked like they really didn't give a shit, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know how much of that goes on the coach or how much of that goes on the players. I mean, I'm sure a lot of players are fed up, as I said, but I don't know how much of that you can put on Pat Shurmur and how much of that goes on the players. So I'm sure both sides have blame, though. So for the offensive line, I mean, they weren't as bad as they've been in the past. I'm concerned, though, because Nate Solder was limping on the last play of the game. Apparently, according to Twitter, Chad Wheeler had his ankle wrapped and wouldn't answer whether he was injured or not, so that's never a good sign. Patrick Omameh just sucks. I don't know what else to say about him. Will Hernandez is showing growing pains. I remember one play where he let a guy go right by him. And there was a play with Omameh where he literally let his guy just pretty much put his hands on both of Omameh's shoulders, pushed him to the side, and just was able to sack the quarterback or get the running back in the backfield. I forget what happened the rest of the play, but I have that image engraved in my mind right now of how easy it was to get past Patrick Omameh. So the offensive line might be worse than it is now if these guys are injured. Hopefully Solder and Wheeler are okay, but we really don't know at this point, and I guess we'll see what happens in the injury reports for practice next week. So we do go into Atlanta next week. It is going to be, I would think, a high-scoring game. I don't know I know Atlanta's going to score on us, but especially in Atlanta, but I don't know if we're going to score on them. Their defense might be the worst in football right now, so if we can't score on Atlanta in a dome, then just forget about it offensively. I mean, I thought a few weeks ago against the Saints that we were going to score a lot of points. Their defense was really bad at that point. Didn't happen. We ended up scoring on Carolina in a game where no one really expected us to put up a lot of points, so the Giants have just been a really weird team to get a grip of this season, and as long as Atlanta's defense still sucks, I mean, Keanu Neal I think is done for the year. I think Deion Jones is out. I think Grady Jarrett is still out, and they have a lot of key pieces missing from that Atlanta defense. They're playing in the dome. It's probably going to be a high over/under, so you would expect the Giants to put up points in that game. And I can't be confident saying that they will, but that's what you would expect with the talent this team has on offense. Right now, I would say the chances of Eli being benched after, not even after the bye, but benched this week, if we get a report tomorrow saying that Eli Manning is going to be benched for Kyle Lauletta, I wouldn't be too shocked, but it would be a little surprising this early to do it. I mean, I'm not saying it's early enough, but I think with Lauletta being a 5th-round rookie, you want to give him some more time and some more time to prepare for his first NFL start. I mean, they do have 10 days or so till the next game, but I would think that they would give him the bye week to sort things out and get ready. So I do think Eli Manning will be handed the next 2 games, and we'll basically see what happens. If they continue to struggle like it was tonight, or anything near tonight, then we might see Kyle Lauletta this season earlier than most of us would expect. I expected by the last few weeks of the season we would see Lauletta because, let's face it, the Giants probably were going to be out of playoff contention by that point anyway. But as I said, if the Giants are 1-7 coming into Week 9 or Week 10, I really do not see the point in playing Eli Manning. You might as well play Lauletta and see what you possibly have in him. We really don't know at this point. He played for Richmond, so it'll be exciting though to see a new quarterback, and I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But as for the Atlanta game, I expect the Falcons to put up a shit ton of points on us, and we'll be lucky to score 20 at this point. So not expecting a lot there. There's a week and a half till that game comes, so I'm sure a lot of stuff will change. If you want to see my reactions to stuff, I put my Twitter on this page, obviously, so you can follow that. And I guess I will talk to you guys after the Atlanta game. I'll be uploading some clips from this game, going over how bad the offense was and some of the coaches' film. And I'll also try to upload some of Kyle Aletta's preseason plays and get those for you guys. So, as I said, I'll see you guys after Atlanta. The Giants officially suck. I think we're worse than the Browns at this point, and that's pretty much it. So I'll see you guys after Atlanta.